It's a teen talk skating podcast where I embarrass myself. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of A Teen Talk Skating. My name is Van Go, and what episode number 27 today? Okay, but I do have kind of an update from the podcast. Right now, I am recording on my laptop instead of my iPad like I usually would. It's just due to like Spotify's new updates and stuff. So I hope the audio is still good. I feel like on my iPad it was good. I'm not sure on my computer if it will be as good, but we will definitely see. I still have braces surprise, but I feel like I'm better at like controlling them, if that makes sense. Like I'm not pausing to like swallow my saliva every 2 seconds. I know that's like TMI. Oh my god. Why do I say that? But I also have transitions. I found a way to get the transitions on in the theme song for the podcast, so that's pretty good. Again, I'm really sorry that I didn't get them on last episode because I didn't know really how, but I know how to do that now, and yeah, that's like the intro. I hope you guys are all doing good. Today is just one of those days for me. It just feels like I don't want to be here. Like I don't want to see anybody. But you know what? It's okay. We're all in this together. High School Musical, right, right, right. But yeah, this episode is a very, very special episode for me. I really enjoyed writing up the notes for this episode and getting to discuss the book that I read. It's so amazing. And yeah, time for our program of the week. Program of the week. Okay, so for our program of the week, we actually have a pairs program. I know, so surprising. Van Gogh actually watching pairs, even though it creeps him out sometimes. Yes, we do have a pair program this week because this pairs program makes me not scared of pairs. I'm always scared of watching pairs. I'm always scared of watching, the triple twist and like all the throws. Like they make me scared because like I'm so scared someone's gonna get hurt, someone's gonna get injured. It makes me so scared to watch for some reason. But we do have a pair program, and that is Ashley King Gribble and Timothy LeDuc. Their pairs free skate at US Nationals 2019. I wrote 2020. It's 2019. Their music is WE. I'm never sure if it's WE or it's like we, but it's that movie about like the like romance or I don't know. But WE question mark. But their pairs free skate to that soundtrack. So I just think, and maybe this is kind of a hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I feel like Ashley Kane Gribble and Timothy LeDuc, they have like one of the best synergies for pairs team like I've ever seen. And I really miss them honestly because their relationship like on the ice, like it was so clear that they were like we're best friends and like this is what we're passionate about. Like I don't know, their emotion on the ice like together, they work so well. And I can tell that, you know what I mean? But in this free skate, it is quite a contemporary take on pairs. One thing that is like one of my biggest gripes with pairs, I feel like there are so many pairs elements to do that it ends up feeling like throw, jump, do this spin, do this death spiral, etc. And it ends up feeling like a really, really busy pairs program. But this program is very calming, it's very relaxed. They get the elements done specific moments. The beginning sequence is lovely. There's this part where after they do, I believe it's a triple style cow double toe double loop, side by side combination. They kind of go to the center ice and they both have their arms up and they almost hug each other. And it's a bit of a moment. It's a bit of an artistic moment. Like, okay, okay. And then they have a pretty much clean skate. And so at the very, very end, their emotion is everything because at first, both of them, when they finish, are like, "Oh my god, I just did that," and then they like both of them kneel down on the ice. They're like, "We just did that," and it just gives like best friend energy that I feel like is just so iconic. And then in the kiss and cry too, when they react, it's beautiful. What else? Their throws are really, really high, I have to say, which I know most throws are really, really high, but like I feel like the throws look very high. Maybe it's just a camera angle. But to me, they look so stable that it doesn't make me scared to watch them as a pairs team. And I enjoy the like attention and detail with all the arm movements throughout the program that really match with like the flourishes of the music. And it's a calming program. Like I don't know, I thought I would never say that about pairs, but it calms me down. It helps me breathe at night. But yeah, Ashley King Gribble, Timothy Leduc, their pairs free skate to WE at US Nationals 2019. Definitely recommend, and like it's just a masterclass of like how two pairs partners should work together because it just feels so cohesive and connected, and I love it. Anyway, time for your main episode. Hello. Hopefully the transitions worked and everything. Hopefully I figured that out. I am not the most tech savvy person to ever exist on the planet, and that is for sure because I don't even know how to do like basic tech things. But hopefully I figured it out and I don't feel like I don't know. I don't know. But this week's episode is a very, very special episode to me. I loved doing this episode, like I mentioned in the intro. I loved making this episode's notes and everything and writing everything because it's so interesting and so powerful. Um, and so I read recently Out of Shape Worthless Loser by Gracie Gold, who we all know is an American figure skater competing in the women's singles event. Um, she has been very open with a lot of her struggles with mental health and kind of the culture behind the sport. And so I have to say this book was so, so, so good. I have to say I really, really enjoyed it. But I do want to put like a disclaimer. In this book there are a lot of triggering events. Please do your research about trigger warnings before reading the book. There's many parts of the book that I definitely see can be distressing or triggering for somebody. And so please do your research before reading the book. Please search up any trigger warnings. In this episode, I will not be discussing the triggering moments at all or any of the trigger warnings um, because this episode's emphasis is not really retelling the story. It's about how Gracie Gold's story relates to this British skating world. So it's not exactly a summary of what happens in the book. It's more or less connecting it, kind of making a link to the book, to the skating world. But again, it is not an easy read. I have to say there are a lot of difficult moments to process, difficult moments that are part of the book. And so please make sure to do your research beforehand about what may be in the book, specific moments that may be triggering. And yeah. So the first part of this episode. I don't know why I can't remember the word episode now. I don't know. The first part of this episode is very, very small. It's just an overall look at the book to provide some context. What is it about? Who's in it, etc. Not who's in it. It's Gracie Gold. But what is the book about? What is my overall thoughts? And then the second main part of this episode is how it relates to the skating world. How is what Gracie Gold went through in her skating career and how the people around her treated her and everything, how does that relate to modern skating these days and the environment that is figure skating for skaters, coaches, etc.? And so I feel like that is really, really important because Gracie Gold is somebody who I honestly really look up to for being so open and candid about, all her struggles in the sport. And I really want to be able to relate that story that she's written into the skating world. But what is Out of Shape Worthless Loser about? So it is a memoir by Gracie Gold. She wrote it herself. It's very, very good. But it's her story, and it starts when she was first a kid, when she first started skating, and it goes from back then all the way to about mid of 2023. So it is really much a season, almost not season by season or year by year. It is pretty much like the most significant moments in her life, like when she was, you know, starting to really train for skating, and then when she started winning junior events up to the senior rings, and everything. It's really much her triumphs is a big thing, her struggles is a big thing, and everything that is connected with that, everything in between. And one of the big highlights of the book is contrasting what is seen by America and what is seen with the world and what's actually happening behind the scenes, behind the curtain, with the coaching and figure skating, the training, family life, etc. And that's what I really want to focus on today is that contrast between what everyone else sees and what the skater may be going through. And alongside that, it does mention a lot of news, a lot of magazines, a lot of commentators, what they were saying about Gracie Gold, what she heard from them. And I think overall, it really is an inside look at figure skating as a whole and how the system works and how it is honestly not the best system and it's not favorable to athletes like at the moment. And when Gracie Gold went through it, her story is absolutely just everything, honestly. Some parts it is amazing, some parts it isn't. Um, and it is really an analysis. It's a cut into figure skating, I have to say. It's a really deep cut into figure skating, separating like, hey, this is what you saw, this is what you saw, this is what I went through, etc. It's an amazing story. But I just want to give a little short review. I have to say I read the ebook version of it. I did not read the physical copy of it. I'm not sure. I don't think there might be anything different between those, but in case there are, I'm sorry that I didn't read the physical version. I did read it as an ebook. But Gracie Gold is an amazing writer, I have to say. Like, not even being biased because like I like her skating, like I like figure skating. Her writing is actually so good. It's so clear and honest is the first thing I think of. And like vocabulary queen over here, right? Like so many new vocabulary words that I learned from her for some reason. I never thought I would, but okay. I never really read nonfiction or autobiographies or anything that's like not fiction that I usually read, but Out of Shape Worthless Loser by Gracie Gold is so raw, so honest. Not it's not covered up with a pretty blanket. It is so unfiltered. Um and that's what gives the book, sorry. Such a like personal quality to it and she is really telling you her whole story. Like it is not her story with a little makeup on it to make it sound better. No, this is a real, true story about everything she went through. It's so raw, so honest, and I really appreciate that. And honestly, that is just so strong for her too. So strong, and I can't imagine being able to like put everything out. So this is what happened, and it's very I don't know. I have like no words. Honestly, this book was so good, and I could not stop reading it really. I try to limit myself, but I couldn't stop. But it's very good, very honest, very candid. I have a beautiful quote right here. So throughout the book, she kind of has this concept of three lives, right? She has Gracie Gold the skater, Grace Elizabeth, which is her personal life, and then Out of Shape Worthless Loser. And she has this quote where she says, throughout my life, each of these personas has dominated at different times. This memoir is my attempt to reconcile these selves into a single being. She might be messy, but at least she'll be me. And that's from Accessorizing the Truth, which is right after the prologue of the book. You know, I think that really shows it with that quote. This is honest, this is raw, and throughout the book, she really does try to like I don't know how to explain, like, exactly how she said, she tries to reconcile these cells into a single being. She's trying to process everything that she went through and process what happened to her as a skater, what happened in her personal life, and what kinda happened with Out of Shape Worthless Loser that she felt. And so and then I love the last part, "She might be messy, but at least she'll be me," because I really do think that's a lot of the book. It is a messy book, not in a negative way, and messy in the sense that a lot happened to Gracie Gold, a lot happened to her in her skating, a lot happened that is difficult to process, and she's trying to put it all together, and then she says, "But at least she'll be me." And that's where the rawness comes in this book. It is her. It isn't Gracie Gold, with this huge I don't know what it would be. It isn't Gracie Gold that's hidden away or anything. This is Gracie Gold. It is very much a tell all, and it's so honest, so emotional, so powerful. Throughout the book, she does mention a lot of her performances, specific moments like the 2014 Olympics, 2016 Worlds, 2020 Nationals, 2022 Nationals, 2022 Skate America, and um, if I had to make a recommendation, because I guess I'm a book critic, I recommend watching those performances alongside reading the book like I did, or at least watch them like after you're done reading it. Because if you kind of because, she talks a lot about what she was thinking during those performances, what she was feeling, what she was thinking, what was going through her head during those, short programs or free skates, and I would really, really recommend watching those performances alongside reading the book because I feel like it shows such a good connection. And yeah, I really do recommend the book if you're interested in that insider view of figure skating. Again, please research those trigger warnings. And then I will say it is pretty accessible, I feel like, even if you aren't a huge, huge fan of skating. I would say, like, yeah, like, maybe you need, like, a base level knowledge of the sport to really understand the book and everything, but I think she really does explain a lot about how the sport works, different competitions, jumps, etc. Um, I wouldn't say that it is, like, really, really confusing and it's very exclusive to people who watch figure skating, that's definitely not true, but, it'd be good to have, like, a browser handy, your Google out, like, "What is Skate America? What's a Grand Prix? What's the Worlds?" And then the book is not too long. I guess I am a little biased. To me, I went through it really, really fast because I'm a huge fan of the sport of Gracie Gold, but I didn't think it was honestly too long. Yeah. And so that was, like, the first section where, I just wanted to give my overall review. Definitely recommend, 5 stars, honestly, amazing. I really enjoyed it. With all of it was so good. But then the main part of this episode that I wanted to discuss was how it relates to the skating world, the figure skating world. Um, and honestly, I could probably write a whole essay on this book and how it really does connect to the skating world because there are so many deep thoughts that I have about it. The kind of death. I can't say that word like ever. I'm sorry. The emotional deepness, the depth. I'm sorry. The depth of this novel is very, very. Everything is super detailed, and so it is really an analysis of what goes on in figure skating, what the world actually needs to know about figure skaters, about what they go through. And so I want to start off with a nice rhetorical question, I guess, and that is, what do we know as fans of figure skating? And I'll give you guys some time to think, Ray. What do we know as fans? Really know? What do we really know as fans? Not just what we know, but what do we really know? Okay. So, maybe you thought of something? I don't know. I feel like a teacher, I'm very sorry. Um, but what do we really know as fans? To me, honestly, and even if you are a huge fan like I am, not much. You aren't a skater. Well, you might be a former skater, but, um, a lot of people who are huge fans of the sport, most people, the majority of people, they aren't, competing at nationals, they aren't competing at worlds or the Olympic level. And so they don't really, I guess we, myself included, we don't know really what's going on behind the scenes of figure skating at that type of competitive level. And so I think that is really one of the biggest points of the book that I really want to build on. Gracie Gold, she implies throughout the book that it's a very big overarching theme throughout her memoir is that what fans see is not the same as what skaters experience, like actually experience. It is not this glitz glamour life. It is difficult. Um, and this quote I have is from chapter 4. It's called "Do Your Job," and she states, "Outwardly, I appear to be having the time of my life. I embrace the attention. I approach my interactions with the media as if I was auditioning for my own reality show." And, looking at that, hearing that, reading that, it struck within me. I know this is happening because figure skaters are really treated as celebrities, right? They are, and athletes in general, they are oftentimes considered celebrities. They're so popular, they're so famous that, I think there is a certain pressure to look really perfect, really look good. And she states, I approach my interactions with the media as if I was auditioning for a reality show, my own reality show. And that is kind of the reality of figure skating. If you give an interview as a skater, you have to look so good. You have to present yourself so good. You can't show anything that's bad. No, this is a sport where we, the skaters, not we, sorry, skaters, they have to look very good, present themselves very good. It is a performance sport after all. You're expected to show the same on the ice and off the ice, no matter what. And I do really think that is the reality of this sport, is that you have to show what's on the ice, what's off the ice. That has to be the same, and it has to be a very good person. They're always smiling. They're always kind. And so I really do think that explains how this creates a huge environment for skaters have to hide, and that's just so, I think, unfortunate. That comes with sport, that they have to kind of hide that, they gotta hide the negative sides, or what's perceived as a negative side. It's not negative to feel, angry at your performance. It's not negative to feel sad, right? Or, have struggles in your life. But for figure skaters, they can't show that because it is such a performance. It is a performance on and off the ice. In a way, you can't show how you feel because it breaks that idea of perfection that figure skaters, you know, not that they train for it, but it breaks the idea of perfection that they need to incorporate into every part of their living life for some reason, right? It is that culture that we've created as fans, I feel like. I really do think it's partly the fans, not fault, but it is a natural process of having fans. And also the culture of the sport in general, the culture of sports and athletics in general is to, let me show you what I can do, not what I feel on the inside. Let me show you what I can do physically. And so it's actually become the normal, I think, in my opinion, I think it's actually the normal to not be open, about what you feel inside. And I feel like this does relate to a greater issue in general in society about stigma and mental health, about discussing your emotions in public is not, it's not okay. Obviously, it is okay no matter what, but the culture, our society is like, no, that's not okay. And I think the pressure is even increased for figure skaters, for celebrities, for athletes in general, who feel the extra pressure to present themselves, as Gracie Gold kind of explains throughout that quote and throughout the book. But again, everything is pretty behind closed doors. I don't want to say I'm speculating in this episode. I feel like that makes it seem like this is all fiction. I think I'm trying to build on what Gracie Gold says and trying to see, like, I'm trying to see everything through the skater's view, because I'm not a skater myself, but I'm trying to see it through the skater's view. I feel like, I don't know. I hope that's okay. I don't know. Um, and then the second question I have is, well, not really a question, it's more of a statement. But personally, I do wonder how many skaters are being told this and how many skaters just feel this way. Maybe because other people have told them um, that, you can't show your emotions. No, no, no. You have to you have to put on a show. Or maybe they feel that implicitly. Maybe that is put on by the sport, that it's not intentional that they how do you say that? It's not intentional that, the federation is not saying, no, don't discuss your emotions ever. But maybe implicitly it's more like, make sure you're a presentable member of society, of the sport. Make sure you show everything very, very positive with the sport and everything behind it. And even if they aren't being told this, I wonder how many people or how many skaters really feel that way. Maybe because maybe that is the culture of the sport, honestly, truly, and honestly, that is the culture of the sport, is that we have to hide. We can't show the real thing. And so I feel like this environment that we've created is, I have to honestly say, I do really think that is kind of toxic. I don't think it's healthy at all to be hiding your emotions, especially at these higher, this level at where you feel that pressure. I cannot imagine. Or, I've only felt a minuscule of that. Maybe I've hid my emotions from other people. I think everyone has. But on the figure skater level, and on the, celebrity level, I guess, is what I'm trying to explain here, is that you can hide your emotions, and then you can hide your emotions, but when you're famous, when you're popular, when people look up to you, maybe is the biggest thing too. When people look up to you as a hero, as an idol, you don't want to show a crack in on the surface. You don't want to show a crack in the armor. You don't want to show um a flaw, is what I'm saying. There is this perfection that we have to achieve, and it's impossible to be perfect, but we have to act like we're perfect. This is not a sport where you can't not act like you're perfect. Is kind of what I want to say. And I feel like we look at athletes as superheroes. We look at them and we say, "You're my hero," or we look at them more than they are, I think. We look at a skater and we see them more than they actually are. We don't realize that they're human. And maybe that does sound stupid. I don't know if that sounds stupid. But we often say that, gosh, let me think. What's on the outside is not what's on the inside. What's on the outside that we see, what we perceive, not even what we see. I think we often have a cloudy lens in figure skating. Hey, that skater right there, they're my hero. They're my idol. They're perfect. There can't be anything wrong with them. But at the end of the day, they're human. They're human. Figure skaters are human. Athletes are human. Everyone is a human. They feel human things. They feel human emotions, and they are human. But in the end, it is a sport that is so public, I would say. Figure skating is very public and viewable. It isn't a team sport where, you know, connecting back to like the Olympics that are happening, there's tons of sports that are team sports in the Olympics. Basketball, I see, fencing that I've seen, gymnastics is a team sport, and so not to say that in those sports, like, people are not struggling, people have been very open about struggling as well, but I will say figure skating feels a lot more lonely, I would say, perhaps because it is, oftentimes in singles especially, it is, solo, or, you're by yourself, on the ice, or, even in pairs and ice dance, you're just two people on the ice, and, you can't, you can't show everything, I guess, because you're the only target almost. I don't know how to say it, but I just feel like in figure skating there is this targeting that we do in sports almost. In solo sports, there's this targeting. We blame and we stereotype, and people are honestly kind of negative. And they target skaters like, no, this skater, they're awful. I can't believe they did that. There's just so much pressure. Like, why can't, these skaters, like, I can't imagine competing on that level, and, the world is really feels like it's on your back. Um, and so it's just so public, your failures, if you fail in figure skating, that you don't fail, but if maybe you fall a couple times, it is so public, that's so viewable, with the internet and everything these days, like, people start blaming you, people are so negative on the internet, people are so everything, and so you don't want to just say like the fans are not being maybe you don't want to say like the fans are not super nice, or the fans like shut up or anything, because like you need to keep that idea perfect. You already fell in like your competition. You can't just go out and start blaming the haters now, because you have to be perfect, and you already messed up once by falling. You can't mess up again by trying to blame other people who, hate on you, even though that is so warranted and that is so fair to hate the haters, you know what I mean? Um, Not hate the haters, but I mean, like, say something back and, like, I don't care about y'all. You can't say that if you're just kidding almost. It feels like there is this extra pressure to be perfect. And so, inside such a sport like this, there are so many complexities. That's what I want to end off this section with. There's so many complexities within figure skating, obviously. Obviously, I don't want to say like every skater goes through this. Every skater definitely, every person has a different experience within the sport. I'm sure there's skaters out there who have a very, very positive experience. They love everything that they do. The fans are super nice to them. But Honestly, there's skaters who I know, like, the internet definitely is not super duper nice to them, and I'm sure they've gone through everything that the internet has ever had to hold, and, people are just so awful. That's why I wanna say people are so awful because they've created this culture around and an environment around the sport that you cannot be who you wanna be, is what I'm saying. Like, even if you wanna express something that you wanna express, don't, because it's gonna go against you somehow, because people are gonna find a way to do it. And, yeah, that's why I wanna say that it is very detailed, it's very complex. I'm not trying to say this is everyone's experience in sport, it definitely isn't. Um, and I'm really glad that people are being more people, I feel like, are being open about that in the sport, how it is so much more complex than we see. Obviously, this book, Out of Shape, Worthless Loser by Gracie Gold, it is very much honest, and it just show all the complexities of the sport that we don't see necessarily as fans. Um, I know we've had other people come out about that. Amber Glenn, for example, has discussed mental health in the sport. Um, I'm really blanking, but I know like tons of other skaters have come out and talked about how their mental health, may be affected by the sport and everything. And it's so powerful to hear all that. But I want to end off on a more positive note on the episode. So, what can we do? I think that is kind of the main thing that I try to say every episode like this, more the analysis episodes. What can we do as the figure skating world, as mostly the fans? That's us as the fans. Um, what can we do? Um, as fans of figure skating. So for me as a fan, I feel like I'm guilty of this too, of as I mentioned earlier, of seeing skaters as superheroes, as seeing skaters as more than they actually are, more than actually you know, I see them as more than human because I think they can handle so much more and everything. I'm guilty of that. I have to admit, I'm guilty of saying like, or thinking like, oh my god, they're so amazing and everything, and not realizing what's behind the sport. And so I want to say I think people in figure skating and in all sports, honestly, I feel like this happens in all sports. People need to be less harsh. And the media needs to be less harsh. Like the amount of time like I watch a news article or I see like a figure skating article and it's like, even the title is like already judgmental, like this person failed, this person, you know, yeah, I don't know what's another negative word. They failed, they lost, only second place or things like that. We see that so much in figure skating from the media, from the public and everything. They only got this place. Oh my god, they're such a failure. Oh my god, they're such a loser. Right? And so it's so harsh and like are we okay, people? Like I think the sport is mean, honestly, because the public is one thing too. The media, that's why I just got the media with news articles and everything. That's awful. The public though, especially on the internet, oh my gosh, we all know figure skating, like Twitter is so toxic. I feel like Reddit is like somewhat okay, but I still see at the bottom of the like threads, like there's people who get like downvoted because they're so mean, rightfully downvoted because they're so mean. Um, like we need to have empathy, okay? Like, can we put ourselves in these skaters' shoes? Like, what are they going through? This is the toughest sport in the entire world. I had to say that. It is the toughest sport in the entire world. What are these figure skaters going through? That we oh sorry, that's my pencil. What are these figure skaters going through? And why can't everyone just like accept that and realize that and take a step back and say, oh wait, like I should be less judgmental. I should be less this. Like it's okay to be, reasonably, you can critique a skater reasonably, sure. But to the point where you're like being extra mean to them is so awful. And I see that honestly like all the time, like every day, and it's so awful. And so again, we need to understand that they're human. We need to have empathy. We have to actually understand. We have to comprehend their experience and validate that. That's a valid feeling to have. Because I feel like people are saying like, no, like they shouldn't be feeling that way, la 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 la. Sorry. But again, people are so mean and judgmental. The world don't need that, people. The world don't need that. The world, I don't know. People can be judgmental reasonably in a reasonable fashion. People do not have to call people skaters names. They don't have to like bash skaters for some reason. Um, the world needs happiness and love and like, appreciation and say, hey, you know what? That I don't like how they did that jump maybe, or that was a bad competition for them, but you know what? Maybe they were going through some hard times. Just saying, people, just have some empathy. Um, yeah. And then in the world of figure skating, not as the fans, but federations or the ISU, for instance, one of the things that Gracie Gold mentions throughout the book is encouraging discussions of mental health or encouraging discussions of the tough parts of the sport in general, such as maybe training or everything. And so Gracie Gold, she does coach like younger skaters, like little kids now, I believe, as what she mentions, and adult skaters as well. She trains other skaters or she coaches. So from chapter 27, which is called Call Me Coach, she mentions how she has a discussion with young skaters each time she does a seminar or a teaching session or anything. So she says, I want to be the change that skating needs, which is why I set aside time at each Road to Gold clinic, which is her coaching sessions, to Q&As with small groups of skaters. That was such a good moment for me because it was so powerful and being like I really do can't imagine like being a young skater and maybe I really am worried about this sport, like where am I going in this sport, why am I failing at everything, and her, Gracie Gold, being there, and she's like, what do you want to talk about? Do you have any questions about the sport? Anything that you want to confide? Any struggles you're going through? And, I wish I had somebody like that I wish I really would have someone like that if I was a young skater struggling through the sport and everything. And I think that's so powerful. I hope that this becomes more widespread. I hope other coaches as well pick up after Gracie Gold and start saying like, "Hey, you have any questions for me?" And you know, to the point where a coach should not feel like I hope I don't know how to say. A coach shouldn't. I think honestly, if you get a coach, I know my brain. Okay, I think if you get a coach, the coach shouldn't just be that person who like trains you in jumps, trains you in spins, does your choreography maybe. I feel like it should be someone you can also confide to. And I don't know if that is part of like standard training for coaches or anything, but I hope coaches get training on like how do you deal with mental health with athletes, like, or how do you in your students, like, how do you help them if they're having a bad day or they want to discuss mental health with you to the point where I hope coach skater relationships don't just become let's train or I hope they become more I feel like I don't know. This is all very like theoretical, I feel like. I hope coaches encourage being open and honest with their skaters too. I hope coaches become a place of refuge, especially since maybe someone doesn't have somewhere else to go. I hope that coaches are a place to go and coaches understand what skaters are going through. I hope coaches receive training on what to do. Now, in terms of the ISU, we all know the ISU, like, they're a little iffy at times. We love them for making the sport possible, but at times it can be a little iffy. But if they did have some sort of mental health, I'm not sure if they do have this. Honestly, I probably should have done better research. But I hope they have some sort of mental health contact for their athletes, for like email us or call someone, or I hope they really do like reach out to athletes like that. I won't say like, how are you feeling and stuff like that. I don't know if they are, but I hope the ISU also is like has some type of program like that where they are encouraging athletes like, hey, if you're struggling, like please call someone or any, if you want to talk to somebody, I do know Gracie Gold herself did a I don't know what it was. She was at a Congress thing, the ISU Congress meeting. She did a speaking about her experiences, I believe. I'm not sure where it really came of that. Um, if they decide on anything, but I hope there becomes an initiative within figure skating, within the ISU, because there is like, speed skating and stuff, synchronized and stuff. That I hope there is an initiative to help increase awareness of mental health in the sport and hopefully make it more widespread. I'm not sure exactly how they would do that, but I hope they do it because I do think, and this is like my summary for the whole episode, mental health in the sport is so a million times crucial because I can't imagine like because again, as I said, this is a sport where you are so public and you have to be so publicly expressed and you have to be so, not open in the sport. You have to be very closed. If you don't have anything positive to say, don't say it. It's kind of the attitude I feel like the sport has. And so if you do have something negative to say, like, why are you saying it? You know what I mean? But I hope people become so open about their struggles and to the point where this sport is a comforting sport and skaters feel uh comforted in the sense that it isn't scary to kind of say something that may not be super 100% positive. Say that, I struggled recently or something. Um, I don't mean to talk for skaters. Obviously, they all have their own choices and everything. But that's what I really do hope is for the most part is that it becomes less judgmental from, our view, not our view, but it becomes less judgmental from at least the view of the fans, the audience, the media. I hope it becomes less judgmental on our part because it's so judgmental um with how awful people are and everything. And I hope it does not become that judgmental anymore. Um in the future, I would love to see that happening. I do think progress is made with every step we're taking, obviously. Gracie Gold, with this book, I do believe she is making this big push for that in the sport. And, other skiers as well, Amber Glenn, as I mentioned, and tons of other skiers. I really do think that we're having this push forward to discuss mental health in the sport, to discuss struggling in the sport, to discuss, hey, it is okay to feel how you feel in the sport, because this sport can be very, very cruel, can be very, very angelic, and can also be very, very cruel. And that's kind of my final thought, I would say, within this. Maybe not my final thought. Um, maybe not. But yeah, figure skating can be hard. Let's not question that at all, right? It can be very mentally draining. And so I look forward to the day where there isn't this stigma of mental health, especially in society anymore as well. I do think in figure skating, a stigma of mental health is an offshoot of, what is happening in society. Um, we have all these great people um advocating for mental health awareness and everything. And so, yes, that is what I have to say about this. Yeah, I look forward to a day where mental health it's okay. You know what? It's okay you're not feeling okay. Let's talk about it in the sport. It's fine. You can go public about that. Who cares? We care about you. It doesn't matter like if you're not perfect. Your mental health matters, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, that's my final thoughts on Out of Shape Worthless Loser by Gracie Gold. Amazing book. Please go check it out um after checking out the trigger warnings. I know I'm kind of late to this. I know the book came out in February, but I just read it. Okay, I'm sorry. If you made it this far, I hope you really enjoyed this. If you have read the book, tell me how you felt about it. If you haven't read it yet, then maybe it'll land on your TBR. But I do recommend, again, discussing or researching the different trigger warnings. And Gracie Gold, to me, she is such an advocate for discussing these issues in figure skating. I respect her as a person so much. Would love to meet her. Wink, wink. I don't know. Such an inspiration for such an inspiration for me as a non-skater, and I'm sure an inspiration for skiers everywhere. Um, and I actually went back to watch the 2020 Nationals free skate to She Used to Be Mine. So beautiful and so powerful that program is. And then her 2022 Nationals to East of Eden, she mentions in the book as being such a big highlight. I love that program as well. Um, and yeah, I really recommend the book if you really if you're interested in everything. And so, I've recorded for quite a long time. Other books, I wrote this in other books by skaters, other skater stories. I know Adam Rippon has written a memoir. I know Nathan Chen has written a memoir. I know who else has written a memoir. I know Karen Chen, I think, did something. I'm sure other people have like written memoirs about, their experience on and off the ice and everything, and their story and their history of when they started and when, what they ended up doing and things like that. And so I would love to hear and read and more from the skating world that again is not so picture perfect and shows the honest brutality and also the honest beauty of it. Um, yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, I know Tyler Cranston has one too. Like maybe Dick Budden has one too. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I would like to read more, and I think that is it for episode number 27 of 18 Talk Skating Podcast, where I embarrass myself. Thank you so much for listening. I know this one was a long rant, but I really enjoyed this book, I'd say, and I really enjoyed how powerful it was. And yeah, it is very much a very good experience. It was an experience. It was a engaging experience for me. It was an educational experience for me. And I hope that if you've read it, it was one for you too. If you haven't read it, maybe you will. And I hope that it will be very, very good for you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Teen Talk Skating Podcast. My name is Van Gogh, and I will see you next week for episode number 28. Crazy. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye. And bye bye. Wait. And bye bye.